A vast armoured convoy arrives at Camp Bastion, the last of 30 combat logistic patrols in 6 months. The missions have gradually emptied Helmand bases of personnel and equipment before Britain's Afghan combat role ends in December. Half the British forces kit in Afghanistan has now been extracted, and the most recent operations have involved hundreds of logistic troops and vehicles.
Braving the tracks and the roads and deserts of central Helmand for 6 months, day in, day out, recovering all of the equipment and materiel to lift the task force from central Helmand back here into Bastion. I mean, that was a huge logistic task, and it is certainly not like trucking up and down the M4.
Convoys could set out at any time, day or night. Helmand is nowhere near as violent as it once was, but the insurgency persists. The timing of road moves was always kept secret and involved protection from a hidden array of force along the route. At the bases themselves, it was a seemingly endless job of loading shipping containers onto lorries, but the only way to ensure that valuable kit returned home. The most destructive work in this latest withdrawal phase was left to Royal Engineers. At main operating base Price near Gereshk, the walls came tumbling down and the outside world became visible for the first time in nearly a decade. The hard graft was all part of the British forces' commitment to leave sites the way they found them.
It's quite labour intensive, so the lads get quite tired after a while, especially holding the Makita above their head. It's quite a good feeling. Obviously it means we're closer to home every bit we tear down, so it's good in a way.
It wasn't only engineers clearing Price. Whatever their job, all the residents got stuck in. In its final days, a base where more than 2,000 personnel once served was down to skeleton staffing. After the departure of local laundry workers, an army doctor took over.
And all the boys smell of roses and petals, so we've caused chaos so far though. We keep losing socks and we keep losing pants, but it's a skill we need to learn and improve on.
A place that used to have heated tents and coffee shops and was nicknamed Fob Nice now looked increasingly austere.
Used to be Fob Nice, now obviously it's Fob Nasty. 12 in a tent, Kera heaters at night, that's the gym now. Struggle to get a hot shower, struggling to get a brew at the minute. No Wi-Fi.
However basic conditions might have been, it would only be for a few weeks. As the base was dismantled, the most important consideration was everyone's safety.
It becomes a bit more interesting as we draw down and the numbers reduce and the levels of protection reduce, but it's very carefully planned so that actually the force protection is the last thing to go and we keep it going all the way through. The aim is to keep us working exactly as normally as we possibly can until the very last safe moment.
The handover of another main base in Helmand's capital, Lashkar Gah, was a much more formal occasion, and the province's governor had been invited to a signing ceremony. He was among a group of dignitaries shown round the facility, now stripped of its tents, and where the Afghans hoped to install a health clinic. For years, Lashkar Gah was the nerve centre of British military operations in Helmand, and also home to police mentors and a provincial reconstruction team. One veteran of 10 years of operations said the Helmand departure reminded him of Britain's exit from the southern Iraqi city of Basra.
That Union flag withdrawing from central Basra, the Basra Palace moment, if you like, the Union flag coming down in central Helmand, and it's going to be quite a sad day, and my memories certainly and thoughts are going to be with the families and friends of those colleagues that we've lost here across the coalition, but particularly the British. Them lives weren't lost in vain. We've done a great job in preparing the Afghan National Security Forces, and I'm safe in the knowledge that when that Union flag comes down and the Afghan national flag rises, it'll be a very proud moment.
Well, one of the key planners of this exit is the commander of Task Force Helmand. And earlier, Brigadier James Woodham explained to me the complexity of the operation involved.
Well, we have a part to play in the movement of people and kit from the ground here in central Helmand and so back to the UK. But there are many other players in that sort of plan. For my part, I've had to focus on the closure of the bases, the movement of all the kit and equipment from those forward bases, and to do it in as safe as possible manner.
You mentioned safety, and although Helmand is quieter these days, the insurgents haven't gone away. In planning this exit, what was your biggest nightmare?
Well, the reality is that there remains a risk here in Helmand. It remains a dangerous place. And so the challenge of the closure of these bases and the movement of our kit back here to Camp Bastion has been able to do that in the safest manner. And that's required us to have to deploy people out on the ground in order that we can move some of those really large convoys back here safely.
To what extent have things on the ground changed in the time that the British have been in central Helmand?
There's been a huge change and huge progress. I can talk from personal example that I was here in 2009 and 2010. And the progress that's been made on the ground since then has been quite significant. At that time, places like Nadi Ali were very violent, and I was able to visit there a couple of weeks back, and life is very different. We now have an Afghan team that's providing security, an Afghan team that's delivering effective governance, and that's allowed health, access to clinics, access to education, many more children in school, people able to go about their business, bringing stuff to market. Normal life is going on there, and it's all being delivered by the Afghans, and that wasn't the case back in sort of 2009 and 10. And for me, that's very heartening, and I think there's a demonstration of the progress made here.
So what's the task that still lies ahead now for the British forces?
Well, the ISAF mission goes on until the end of this year, and there's a determination from the international community for there to be a follow-on mission here aimed at training, advising and assisting. But in the time available this year, then our focus really is to continue to work alongside the Afghan forces, to polish the skills, to identify where they've got weaknesses, and to work with them in order to bring those up to a level that's going to be good for them in the future.
Well, Afghanistan has been Britain's longest military operation in living memory. How do you think history will judge it, and especially here in Helmand?
Well, I think one has to look at the progress that's been made here. When we arrived in 2006, there was a strong Taliban dominance in those areas of population. During our time, we've been able to push those out of the populated areas. We've been able to train an Afghan force that's now of the right size. We've been able to transfer the job that we were doing in delivering of security over to them. They have proven that they're up to the job, and that has allowed us to step back. So I think that's real progress. I think when I speak to the Afghans in Lashkar Gah or in Nadi Ali, they recognise the progress, and they have no intention of going back.